Muslims are often told something that sounds simple. The Torah was corrupted. But when you stop and ask a single question, the issue becomes much more complicated. When was it corrupted? Before Muhammad? Or after Muhammad? Because each answer creates a serious historical problem. And that's what we're going to explore today. Not assumptions, not traditions, but the historical evidence. And here's why this matters. If the Torah was corrupted before Muhammad, one set of problems appears. If it was corrupted after Muhammad, a completely different set of problems appears. Either way, the question doesn't go away. Let's start with the claim itself. Many Muslims are taught that the Torah, the first 5 books revealed to Moses, was altered over time. The reasoning is usually straightforward. The Bible disagrees with the Quran on important issues. Therefore, the Bible must have been changed. But there is a problem. The Quran repeatedly speaks positively about the Torah, and not merely the Torah as it originally existed centuries earlier. It speaks about the Torah that existed during Muhammad's own lifetime. So let's examine what the Quran actually says. In Surah Al-A'raf, we read, "The ones who follow the messenger, the unlettered prophet, whose description they find in their Torah and the Gospel." According to this verse, Muhammad's description could still be found in the Torah. Then in Surah Al-Baqarah, "Believe in what I have revealed, confirming your own scriptures." Notice the wording. The Quran is described as confirming what was already in their possession, not a lost text, not a forgotten text, but a scripture known to the people being addressed. Then we come to one of the most important passages in the entire discussion. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, we read, "But why do they come to you for judgment when they have the Torah containing Allah's judgment?" Notice what the verse says. The Jews are criticized for seeking Muhammad's judgment because they already have the Torah. The very next verse says, "Indeed, we revealed the Torah, containing guidance and light." And then only a few verses later, "So let the people of the gospel judge by what Allah has revealed therein." These passages create an important historical question. What scripture is being referenced? Because commands only function if the thing being commanded actually exists. And that question becomes even more interesting when we look at Muhammad's own actions. In a well-known hadith, Jewish leaders brought a legal dispute before Muhammad. Muhammad called for the Torah to be brought. The Torah was opened, and the judgment was read directly from it. The Torah functions as an authority within the dispute itself. Think about that for a moment. If the Torah was already known to be corrupted, why appeal to it? Why not reject it entirely? Instead, the Torah is treated as a meaningful source of judgment. That doesn't solve every question. But it does make the corruption claim more difficult than it is often presented. Think about it this way. If I tell you to read your driver's license, I mean the one in your possession, not a lost original from centuries ago. The instruction only makes sense if the document is actually available. The same principle applies here. The Quran's commands assume an identifiable scripture known to the people receiving them. That is where the historical tension begins. Let's consider the first possibility. Suppose the Torah was already corrupted before Muhammad. That means the Torah available in the 7th century was unreliable. But then a difficult question emerges. Why does the Quran repeatedly appeal to it as an authority? It points to the Torah as evidence. It describes it as containing guidance and light, and it directs people back to it. If the Torah was already corrupted, why use it this way? That is the first side of the dilemma. So what if the corruption happened after Muhammad? At first glance, that may seem like an easier explanation. But history creates a different challenge, because we possess manuscripts of the Torah that existed long before Muhammad. And those manuscripts allow us to compare the text across centuries. In 1947, one of the most important archaeological discoveries in history was made. Ancient manuscripts hidden in caves near the Dead Sea were uncovered. These became known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. Some date as far back as the 2nd century BC. That means they were written centuries before Jesus and roughly 800 years before Muhammad. When scholars compared these manuscripts to the Hebrew Bible used today, they found remarkable continuity. Were there textual variations? Yes. No serious scholar denies that. But the overall content and message remained substantially the same. The Torah known before Christianity and the Torah known before Islam demonstrate remarkable textual continuity. And the Dead Sea Scrolls are not the only evidence. We also have the Septuagint, a Greek translation of the Old Testament produced centuries before Christ. We have the Samaritan Pentateuch, another ancient textual tradition. We have manuscripts preserved in different regions, different languages, and different communities. Together, they tell a consistent story. The Torah was already widely distributed long before Muhammad was born. To argue for a massive corruption after Muhammad would require evidence that simply does not exist. At this point, many Muslims respond, "We don't believe the Torah was completely corrupted, only parts were changed." That is certainly a more nuanced position, but it introduces another challenge. How would anyone identify those corrupted portions? Which passages are genuine? Which passages are altered? And who determines the difference? The challenge is not merely claiming corruption. The challenge is demonstrating it. Without an objective standard, the claim becomes difficult to verify historically. So let's return to the original question. If the Torah was corrupted, when did it happen? If it happened before Muhammad, the Quran appears to appeal to a corrupted text. If it happened after Muhammad, the manuscript evidence creates a different challenge. And if only parts were corrupted, another question remains. How were people supposed to identify which parts were true? The corruption claim is often presented as a simple answer. But the more closely we examine the evidence, the more questions it creates. The Quran speaks positively about the Torah. Muhammad's own interactions suggest it still functioned as an authority. Ancient manuscripts demonstrate remarkable continuity across centuries. And the practical question remains. What scripture were Jews and Christians being told to follow? Those questions deserve answers. And they deserve more than assumptions. If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing. And remember, seek truth. Test every claim. Follow the evidence wherever it leads. If you're ready to learn, grow, and speak truth in love, join us. Subscribe now. The conversation starts here.